God in that final scene, he looks like he's wearing a fake body. It's so chiseled.
Yeah.
Welcome to Recotopia, a happy home for recommended movies, shows, and music from two people you can definitely trust. Trustability varies by region, no guarantees implied. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Atkinson and Jeremy Scott.
You're playing each piece like losing it hurts. This ain't checkers. You want my king. You got to come get my king. All these other pieces are just a means to do it.
Hello, everybody. This is
Hello.
Recotopia, episode 6. And JC's already asking, did the cats unplug Jeremy's Wi-Fi again? I can confirm that yes, they did. they unplugged the Wi-Fi. I'm definitely not ready. I just got here. Just got here. I thought this was pushed back for some reason, and then Jeremy was like, "Hey, dude, podcast today." I'm like, yeah, gotcha, understood. Anyway, our big recommend today will be Fresh, the 1994 film, not the coincidentally released 2022 film that came out like right after we announced we were going to do Fresh.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. This is the 1994 Boaz Yakin movie that came out. But before we go into that, let's do our small recommends. And I'd like to, shout out the chat. I hope everybody's well. Hope everybody's doing well.
Hey, everybody.
It's no big deal.
Itty bitty living space.
It's so small and light.
It's small, it's tiny, it's petite, it's wee.
Small recommends. I'm going to kick it off because I don't know if you wanted to go first, but I am way too excited about my first small recommend. I tweeted about it. It's a brand new movie on HBO Max called The Fallout. This is a first-time writer-director, Megan Park, who has mostly been an actress. I looked through her filmography and did not recognize anything that I would have seen. But looks like she's on the Mondays. Looks like she was in The Secret Life of the American Teenager for 5 years. This movie is full of trigger warnings. I need to tell you, every one of you up front, this is about a school shooting and the aftermath for a specific couple of teens who survive it and their families. And there are several things about this that I want to praise. I'll try and be brief because these are the small recommends. It's just really powerful. It's very well acted. The star is Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff lately, I think. Like, she's a brand new, up-and-coming...
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Her co-star is Maddie Ziegler. Who I believe was in West Side Story. No, it is her. She played Velma. I don't really want to reveal too much plot. There is some drug use, there's some alcohol, there's some experimentation with sexual stuff. Not that stuff isn't R-rated. There's plenty of R-rated language. Julie Bowen plays the mother. Everyone's great. Everyone's great in this. Her parents know that she's going through something they don't understand, and they have no idea how to help her. Her little sister is clueless and does not realize her big sister just had a trauma. And she goes to therapy. There's so much good mental health representation in here. She has panic attacks that are really well represented. She grows through therapy. Her therapist is Aaron Rodgers' girlfriend.
Oh.
Shailene Woodley, who's great.
Although, I don't even know if they're together anymore.
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't actually care.
I do.
The mental health representation is really, really powerful. And it's a heavy movie. It's probably not going to be the kind of movie that you get done with and go, I feel so happy. This movie is trying to make you understand, if you do not, how much trauma even survivors of school shootings have to endure. I never had to endure anything like that. I never had to do any school shooter drills. And this movie opened my eyes a lot. But it's really well made, really powerful. HBO Max, The Fallout, 2 thumbs up, recommend to everyone.
So I imagine the actual shooting they don't spend that much time on that. That's probably a big part of it, but
it's the mostly... school shooting itself is all off screen. but it lasts about 90 seconds, and you're in the bathroom with 3 characters hiding.
Oh, wow.
So it's not easy, but you also don't have to see the visual of it. And that's basically one of the very first things that happens. And then the movie is more about how that changes everybody. So
yeah, there was a Gus Van Sant movie called Elephant
Yes.
many years ago that was all the build up to a school shooting. Yeah, I don't think we've ever, I don't think I've ever seen one exploring what happens to people after one and having to deal with the psychological effects of that. So yeah, I want to watch that for sure. There's we briefly mentioned this show a few episodes ago on Apple TV called Severance. That I had just seen ads for, I believe, the morning of that recording, and I was like, that looks pretty good. So far, it's into 4 episodes, and I really love this show.
really awesome. This is Ben Stiller, right?
Ben Stiller is behind it. Yeah.
Okay.
His production company, Red Hour or whatever, is there. He's directed, I think, the first 2 or 3 episodes of it. But right now it's got that. It's one of those shows that I don't know. If it gets several seasons, is it going to be as good as what we're seeing right now? It does have that element of Lost to it, where you're just kind of, man, I love all this building of the mythology and all the weird questions and all the stuff that's going on. And then once they start explaining things, am I going to start going, I don't know if I like this. But I love that initial ride of these shows anyway. And Adam Scott, sort of the main character of this. He works in this department of a really just it's a large building, but it's a large maze-like building where you don't run into any other departments or any other people really. And you see him at the very beginning get off an elevator, and he walks through this labyrinthian, empty hallway, long hallway, just going through all this stuff to get to his place. He is in a huge room, but with 4 computers all in the center of the room, and him and it's 3 other people. And they're all doing something with these numbers on the monitors, and they have to figure out like what the right numbers are, and then they don't know what they're doing. They just know if they're succeeding or not, and they know if they're doing well. They just don't know what the result of them doing these numbers is. And Severance refers to the aspect that every time they go to work, there's a chip in their head that gets switched, basically, where their whole outside life it now disappears from them, and they only know the inside of the building when they're inside work. When they're done with work, the chip switches them back to the outside world. So basically, there's a version of them that's trapped inside this office building. They've shown how it must be like to be an innie or an outie is what they call. They call their people outside the world outies, and their innies or when they're inside the world. You can show them like they go through the elevator, and the next time that they're aware of anything, they're back in the office. Huh. So they're basically trapped in this thing. Outies are basically trapped outside or whatever. And there's a character in there. What is her name? Is it Helly? I think it's Helly. Who has just joined this group, and she doesn't like it at all. She just absolutely no interest in staying there. She actually asked to get out of here, and then she actually tries to get a transfer, or not a transfer, but just leave. And when she tries to leave, her outie is telling her she can't leave. And so there's a lot of like interesting dynamics in this. There's a million different other things about this show. I don't want to, because this is a small recommend, I don't want to go too far into it. But Christopher Walken is in this. John Turturro. Don't know the guy's name, but he's in Shang-Chi. He's on the bus. He does the video stuff on the bus. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's in that. Patricia Arquette is in this, and it's a really, really interesting show with a lot of, you have a lot of questions and you have a lot of debates as to whether this is something that, is ethical or moral or anything like that people should have to go through. And of course, you see on the outside, there are people who are railing against the very idea of Severance. And we don't know what this company even does. That's what's so scary about it. And they have a very religious kind of backstory to them. They're cultish almost. But
you have intrigued me.
Yeah, I highly, highly, highly recommend it so far. Like I said, it's only been 4 episodes. So it could end up being, disappointment by the end of it. But so far, the 4 episodes I've seen have been great.
Well, that's awesome. My second recommend, as I write Severance on my to-do list, is a 2010 film that I never got around to seeing until a few months back, called Never Let Me Go.
Ah, yes.
This one, I worry about spoiling too much. It is a 12-year-old movie, but half of what's interesting about this is a thing that you learn about halfway through the movie that changes everything. And I don't want to tell you what that is because I don't want to rob you of that. But I will say it's Andrew Garfield, Carey Mulligan, and Keira Knightley as 3 kids in an English boarding school that have a bit of a friendship triangle romance thing. And I will tell you that this is a genre-bending film. It's kind of drama, romance, and sci-fi. I'll tell you this, but this is the last thing I'll tell you about this movie. It was written by Alex Garland, who made Annihilation and who made the movie before Annihilation,
Ex Machina,
and who wrote and largely directed Dread. So that's really all I want to say. It's R-rated. It's fantastic. It's really intriguing premise that sort of gives you a new way to look at coming of age, romance complications. So there you go.
Yeah, there are without spoiling, there are movies out there that cover this. But you know what it is when it
from the get-go.
From the get-go. This one is sort of like, okay, this is nice drama and there's some some cool things here and there, and then it drops a hammer on you. So yeah, that's a really good movie. I haven't seen that in a while. It used to be on all the time. I used to watch this movie.
Oh man, I hope they bring it back and run it a lot. I would watch it frequently.
Now I'm gonna have to debate on what my next small. I'm gonna go with the Alfred Hitchcock Rebecca, 1940. This was his first movie in the States, I believe. He got together with mega producer David O. Selznick, who was fresh off of, still doing Gone with the Wind at the time that they produced this. Is based on a novel. It is about a man, Laurence Olivier, who meets this woman played by Joan Fontaine. They get married fairly quickly. He is a widower, and he is still obviously really upset about his wife's death. And so he marries this woman who's not a society woman at all, doesn't know how to act really, doesn't know how to be the lady of the house and everything. When she gets introduced into this huge mansion called Manderley, which, by the way, this movie has a lot of influence on Citizen Kane in the following year. He has she comes in, and like all the people who used to work with the first Lady de Winter really loved her, and especially the, I don't know if you would call her the head maid or whatever, or whoever runs the house or whatever. Really, really loved her and really kind of give Joan Fontaine the cold shoulder and everything. Then questions start coming up as to whether his wife died under natural circumstances. And this is a movie that you will, obviously, I don't want to spoil at all. It's one of these movies where you're like, okay, you don't even know anything maybe sinister at all going on for a while into this movie, and then finally there's a question. Maybe maybe she didn't die. Maybe she didn't die like this guy says she did. And so now his wife is curious, and of course there's a lot of questions up in the air as to what happened. But this is you don't hear this movie a lot when it comes to Hitchcock. I don't, a lot of his later stuff like North by Northwest and Psycho and those are the ones that always get the play. But this movie, this movie actually won Best Picture in 1940. Hitchcock did not win Best Director. It went to John Ford for Grapes of Wrath. But this movie is something that sneaks up on you. At first, the title seems, the title's like really boring. Rebecca, who cares? But the movie itself is pure great Hitchcock if you've never seen it. So I highly recommend this this movie for sure, and especially if you're trying to get more Hitchcock under your belt, and you should.
I should, and I have not seen this, so it's going on the list. I especially love the Citizen Kane connection.
There's a lot.
Intrigues me greatly.
It's surprising because when you hear about Citizen Kane, everybody sort of says this is the movie that did all. I mean, obviously there were a lot of techniques that were involved and that were invented in Citizen Kane, but there's some things in Rebecca that were done before Citizen Kane. So it's I think Orson Welles has cited this movie as an influence. So so yeah, very, very good. I would highly recommend.
All right. And now it's time for the big recommend.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about BetterHelp.
BetterHelp. Listen, one of the things people go to therapy for most commonly is anxiety. But a lot of aspects of therapy can cause anxiety. For instance, you're in a new place. There are strangers in the waiting room. You're talking to, at the beginning, a stranger, somebody you don't know. It can be an uncomfortable experience. And so BetterHelp takes away all of that kind of anxiety right out of the gate by giving you the power to decide how and when you want to do therapy. If you don't feel like you look very well, you don't have to do video chat, but video chat is there for you. You can do a phone call instead. You could do text. You could do it over email. The flexibility of BetterHelp is making therapy available to millions more people who would probably not take the plunge if therapy were only in person. And right now, if you go to betterhelp.com/Recotopia, our listeners can get 10% off their first month with the code Recotopia. It's just a few questions that you answer, and then you'll be matched with a licensed professional therapist, typically in your area. A few sessions go on and you're not quite gelling, and make it super easy to change therapists. They've got thousands and thousands of them on staff, because you do need to click with your therapist, and then once you find that relationship, you can, from the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas, start finding the tools to help improve your mental health. So again, go to betterhelp.com/Recotopia, enter the code Recotopia, and get 10% off your first month. I encourage you to do it today.
I'm fine. It's just that you're so big.
It's so huge.
It's a good rule, but this is bigger than rules.
It's bigger on the inside.
Is it? I noticed.
And this week, we have 1994's Fresh.
Yep.
Co-starring, probably most prominently, that man right there, Samuel L. Jackson. As an overview, for those of you who are listening but haven't had a chance to see it, Fresh stars a middle grade, aged character named Michael. His nickname is Fresh, who starts the movie in ridiculously stacked odds against him circumstances. He's living in a foster-type situation with 11 other siblings. His dad, he only sees when he plays chess in the park because he's not actually supposed to see him. And he's running drugs. He's running drugs and money for, ultimately at the top of the chain, Giancarlo Esposito, whose character is Esteban. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to school, and he gets picked on because he's got lighter spots of skin. All throughout the movie, people are picking on him for this, on his forehead. And from there, everything just piles on. That's sort of your run-up to this film. But the first thing I wanted to say is that on my rewatch yesterday for this podcast, the first thing I noticed is this movie opens with a literal crossroads, and then slowly builds in his Brooklyn neighborhood, piece by piece, building by building, so we get a good sense of where we are. But it literally opens with the crossroads, which is where Fresh finds himself, about halfway through this movie. On this rewatch, I found that I love this movie even more. There were pieces of camera work that I don't think I'd ever picked up on before, like that opening shot. But let's hear what your overall impressions were this time around.
Yeah, I had seen this movie, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago for the first time. I believe I worked at a movie theater that had this, but I never saw it. So watching this the second time, I did pick up on a lot more stuff this time, and I enjoyed it a lot more as well. You alluded to this when you brought this movie up last week. This whole thing there's a literal chess stuff going on in here where he's learning from his father. I don't know what happened in his regular family life, but he's living with his grandparents now.
His aunt.
That's right, his aunt.
Yeah.
And his aunt also has taken in 10 other kids, and it's like a crowded, really small apartment. And every time he comes home, they all look at him like, look at this motherfucker, basically. And he doesn't understand, but I mean, he's a drug dealer, and they're afraid for their lives when he comes home, and that's what he doesn't understand. But there's literal chess that he's learning from his father, but then there's a special moment when they're playing where he says, "You're too afraid to sacrifice your queen, and you're too afraid to do this, and you're too afraid to do that." And then he realizes, you know what? All this stuff that's happened in front of me, I can use all of these people to get to where I want, which I will save what he really wants for people who haven't seen it. But it's interesting trying to figure out who represents what chess piece in what he's doing in real life. There's an obvious pawn in here. There's an obvious queen. There's an obvious king. You might say there's probably a couple of knights that are obvious. I don't know if there are any bishops in here, but it's really interesting to see all this and how he's figured this out and how he understands that people are going to underestimate a kid no matter how smart he is.
Yeah, he plays that to his advantage the entire movie long. This movie is like Shakespeare. Everyone is so primed to believe the worst in everyone else that Fresh just lies his way through everyone, and people keep believing it. And the character is an incredible actor. Like, the opening scene, he goes up to that place where there's 5 women packing drugs and one guy trying to be a hard ass, and he says, "I'll fuck your shit up." And he just walks right over to him and goes, "Fuck my shit up. Say one more word about my sister, bitch." And he's like 5 years younger than this guy, but he carries himself 10 years older than he really is. I think there are 2 key scenes that drive his decision to chess his way out of his life situation. And the first is that shooting on the basketball court, which is slightly telegraphed, but only because movies exist. But then there's that double gut punch of that second victim that you don't know about until everyone has fled, that only Fresh knew until that moment. But then I think the real turning point is that dog fight.
Yeah, it is.
And there are 2 reasons, I think. I think he sees the sweet dog that he loves being turned into a killer and seeing his own life maybe playing out in that direction. But I think he also sees that because the other dog was such a hard ass and went out like a chump, I think he sees the difference between true strength and pretend strength.
Yeah.
But I think he decides right then and there, I'm not going to be turned into a killer. I'm not going to turn into the violent dog. And that is when I think he starts moving the pieces on his board to allow him to hopefully escape.
Yeah, and though his initial moves in this are shocking.
Yeah.
Again, we'll not spoil, but his initial moves in this are shocking because you think of the relationships in this movie. You're like, oh, he would never do this, or he would never do that, or whatever, and this guy is prepared because he realizes that the life that he's headed towards is not worth any of the things that he could. I mean, he's looking right now. He's looking to be a big wheel in this Esteban operation. He's probably the youngest ever who's ever risen in the ranks in this thing, because right now all he does is he waits for the car and then he nods to a few people and then the drugs come out and everything. By the way, cameo from Lawrence Bender in this, from Pulp Fiction, who once again plays long hair yuppie scum, which he did in Pulp Fiction in the diner scene. Bender produced both of these, both Fresh and Pulp Fiction.
Interesting.
So that was a little interesting thing that they threw in there, but this movie does not get talked about enough. Mm-mm. I don't understand how this movie slipped through the cracks of discussion. 94 was a really great year, obviously. But this is one of those that I'm surprised it just didn't get the same staying power of a lot of it, because this is a brilliantly plotted movie.
Yeah. A few notes I wanted to make sure we got to talk about. I like the dichotomy between how his dad and Esteban talk about time, because his dad, when they're playing chess, basically says time has time can't have a value placed on it. It's more valuable than money. Money ain't shit. And then Esteban literally says later, time is money and money is time. And what I like about this character is he ultimately does not take any one person's advice. He carves out his own path, using what I think he has learned and picked up from both of those men. I also, this is dumb, but I wrote down Giancarlo Esposito, abs of fucking iron. Like, my God, in that final scene, he looks like he's wearing a fake body. It's so chiseled.
Yeah.
I also think there's a lot of great dialogue in this film. In addition to the plotting, there's this line when he's he's talking to his sister about how much, your aunt loves you. You can go stay with her. And she says, she's a saint. She loves a stray dog as much as she loves me. Ain't no shit to be loved by a fucking saint.
Yeah.
And I thought,
it's such absolute truth being thrown out there.
Yeah, like, what a perspective. And the last thing, and we can keep talking if you have other notes, but the only other thing I definitely wanted to point out is when that final scene, he goes back to play chess with his father. His father starts in on him. Now, don't be wasting my time today. I don't have any time for fish cakes today. Blah, 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 blah. Let's play some real chess. And he looks up, and Fresh his eyes are welled up with tears. And then a single tear comes down both cheeks and cuts back to his dad, and his dad has nothing. He has nothing to offer at all. He slumps in and moves a chess piece, and we go to credits. Like, he's a terrible father. He's an excellent chess teacher, but he sees his kid broken, and he just goes right back into chess. It is such a depressing. The outlook for Fresh is probably better than his current mood suggests, but God, what a failure of parenting right there in that moment. Broke my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of hard to believe that Sean Nelson didn't. He still acts today. It's not like he fell off the face of the map or anything. But I'm really shocked that guy didn't have a breakthrough where we just know his name. That's actor Sean Nelson, who has won at least one Oscar or been nominated for something. So I'm really surprised by that. Giancarlo Esposito, by the way, he rose to popularity with Breaking Bad, obviously, but man, he had so many good performances back in this day. So, Do the Right Thing was probably his big breakthrough. This and The Usual Suspects, of course, he was in that. Giancarlo Esposito has always been doing some great work, and this is one of his. This is both terrifying, and you're going to be kind of icked out by him, and you're going to be, you see why people follow him, but he's just full of ick, man. And that scene when Fresh walks in and sees him like completely naked lying next to his sister, that's just going to fill you with all that just so he's such a nasty person. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's a double icky in a way, because Fresh encouraged her to leave the other dude and go to, Giancarlo's character. He knew what was going to happen. Giancarlo had already said, "Hey, your sister, she's pretty hot, man. Why don't you tell her to come be my concubine?" And he does. He encourages her to, and so he kind of helped cause the situation. It's so icky.
I don't know who plays his best friend in this, and I can't remember the best friend's name right now, but that guy is awesome in this. I mean, his character is fucking annoying, but it's so funny. His name's Chucky.
Yeah.
That's Luis Lantigua, who plays that, and he's always saying, "I'm going to be busting all them moves. I'm going to be busting all them moves." And everybody's like, "What the fuck are you even talking about?" And "I'm just going to be busting them moves, man."
I got the stupid moves.
Yeah, busting the stupid moves. And he just never shuts up. Never shuts up. Man, this movie, God, why do we not talk about this movie today? It's got a 7.5 on the IMDb, so everybody who watches it seems to like it. And I remember it had good reviews when it came out, and God, we just don't talk about this movie enough. So I'm glad that we're devoting an episode to this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an 88 on Rotten Tomatoes, so even the critics seem to support it. But yeah, just fantastic. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
When he goes to Sam Jackson's trailer, which is a great scene, by the way, especially the end when he basically says, "I don't have to listen to you. I'm not even seeing you right now."
Yeah.
Sam Jackson has like 5 chessboards set up in his trailer and tells the kid who a couple of the people are that he's playing these games with, and one is a grandmaster. And Fresh looks impressed, and Sam says, "Yeah, he doesn't go to the park, but he comes here to play with me." Do we believe him?
Yeah, that leaves you wondering, right?
Because he's good. He's clearly good enough at chess that's theoretically possible. But because we see Fresh destroy a shark, and then we find out later this is the first time he's even checked his father. He's never beaten his father. But it feels a little like bragging, like that, and maybe it's real and he's bragging. But I wondered when I was watching it this time, is he just bullshitting?
It could be. I don't know why you would just have that randomly there in your trailer, just in case somebody comes by, so that you can tell them that it's a grandmaster. I mean, it's also possible that, and we don't know one way or the other whether this is true or not, but I mean, it could always be somebody who was coming and was playing him early before he was even, a grandmaster.
That's true.
And, the very fact that, it could be another half truth there too, where that was a board that they were playing, and then that dude left, and he's never come back since. And now he's a grandmaster, and now he just tells people, "Yeah, that's that guy, that's that grandmaster," or whatever.
Because listen, if I were a grandmaster, I would definitely want to play against great players, but I would not go anywhere near that trailer, no matter how good that guy was. Like, I need the barest of amenities. He doesn't even have anything to drink but warm beer and 2-week-old cake. Like, I would not do that. That was a question I definitely wanted to ask. What else is there to say about this movie? I did love when the title hits right in the beginning. the projectionist in me loved seeing it hover the way that only film can do, because you don't get that anymore.
Right.
But it was a nice nostalgia hit right there.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready for the super secret double feature?
I can't wait.
Be very, very quiet.
Secret? What secret?
Our dirty little secret.
I tell you something I've never told anyone.
Okay, well, this is going to be a little bit more vanilla of a double feature. I sat there and thought, because last week we did Jackie Brown, and Fresh would have been you mentioned Fresh as a potential double feature for that. I could not think of very many other movies where somebody has a plan, an audacious plan like this, and of course we're going to. I'm going to say I can't think of anything, and then our chat's going to come up with 10 right off the bat. But I couldn't think of anybody who came up with an audacious plan where they sacrifice pieces and they go for it in places where you shouldn't probably go for it if you want to stay living, and all this mess. So I couldn't come up with another movie other than Jackie Brown. That's not going to be the double feature, but because these two would be perfect double features for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This one I'm going to go with Searching for Bobby Fischer, which is a full-on chess movie, and it's a kid, and there are some similarities. There are some. It's not. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about maybe. The chess is a similarity, and who he's learning chess from is kind of a similarity. So I remember it was Max Waitzkin is his name, I believe his name, or was it Josh Waitzkin was his name in Searching for Bobby Fischer. And they mentioned Bobby Fischer in this movie as well in Fresh. I believe he was still on his Fischer had disappeared in the 70s, and he had not emerged, and I think it was like the following year, 95. He came back to play. I can't remember if it was Kasparov or Boris Spassky or somebody. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, it's Searching for Bobby Fischer is it's a kid who is really good at chess. He's learning from. First, he's learning from his dad, Joe Mantegna, and then they get him a real and like a real instructor. Ben Kingsley plays the instructor in that, but he learns like proper quote unquote chess from Ben Kingsley, and then he learns chess on the street from Lawrence Fishburne in this movie. And it's an interesting dynamic because he's being pulled in both directions the entire time of how to play chess. How do you properly play chess? There's this champion kid who is waiting in the wings that Josh is going to face, by the end of it. I think they even have the obligatory match early on where that kid just waxes him early on, and then later on they're in the championship, and he's basically combining all the knowledge he's gotten from Ben Kingsley and Lawrence Fishburne into this one thing. That movie is excellent. Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Yeah.
Steven Zalian, I believe, wrote and directed it. He had quite a year that year. He wrote Schindler's List as well. That movie is excellent. If you're of an age where Queen's Gambit is your chess Bible or whatever, go back to almost 30 fucking years ago and Searching for Bobby Fischer. It's really, really good.
Also, both that movie and Fresh shot the learning chess in the park scenes in Washington Square Park, which you and I spent an entire morning in, and I don't think anybody was playing chess at all.
No. There were a lot of chessboards set up.
Yeah. Like, it's clearly a place that people do play chess. Also, as I just learned, apparently in Searching for Bobby Fischer, Ben Kingsley is playing the guy that in Fresh, Sam Jackson says, that's the grandmaster I'm playing on that board
really?
Right there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of tie between these two movies, so I love this choice.
Yeah.
And I saw Searching for Bobby Fischer once. right when it came out on video, and remember thinking it was fantastic. So I need to
Oh, it's a great movie. I want to see it again. Is it Joan Allen that plays the mom?
I think so. I think
it's Joan Allen, and there's a point where
yes,
Montaigne is really pushing this kid. He's like, because Montaigne can see. He's kind of like what we'd see in Stellan Skarsgård and Good Will Hunting later, right? Where he's pushing this kid. He's like, he is better at this than I have ever been in my life, and he's going way too hard. And then Joan Allen eventually is like, look, if you push any harder, I'm going to divorce you right now. and Joan Allen is amazing in this. So, so there you go. Searching for Bobby Fischer is my double feature, and man, two great movies. You can't go wrong with those two at all.
And I think we've announced this before, but next week on the 15th, our recording will be for The Batman. And we see The Batman tomorrow. I'm very excited.
It'll be a very interesting dynamic because this will be the first time we don't know whether or not the movie is good. So it could be a Warnotopia next week.
Warnotopia.
You never know.
Now and then you get one of those.
Yeah.
It's a risky take. Let's answer some questions. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
All right, let's start with the basic one. What are some of your favorite miniseries?
The ones that have most recently come out that I like, that I loved was Chernobyl, which, Chernobyl was excellent. And I still need to listen to that podcast that the creator of that show did. I listened to, I think, one episode of it, and just didn't have time to get through the rest of it. But although there have been some fact checkers on that miniseries, it doesn't detract from how good it is. I mean, there are some things like I don't think they actually knew for certain what happened at Chernobyl, but the what they came up with by the season, by the series finale was excellent. Like I would totally believe that. And it was just well done, well acted. It's a great miniseries. And then the other one, speaking of Alex Garland, Devs is another great one. I talk about something that just pulls you into a world and just never lets go. That's what Devs does. Devs is an amazing miniseries.
I have not gotten to that one yet. It's on the list. JC Davis over here has stolen at least one of my answers with Band of Brothers. But I also wrote down Watchmen, but then I remember they have announced they're going to do another season of that. So it technically doesn't count as a mini-series. And he also stole your answer with Chernobyl.
Yeah, he did.
Band of Brothers is an all-timer, but then I think recently Sharp Object has stayed with me.
That's a really good one.
As much as any limited or mini-series that I've seen. And a lot of that has to do with Amy Adams just being that gripping an actor. But Sharp Objects, Band of Brothers, Chernobyl, and Devs, all good answers.
And I still need to see Band of Brothers. Like I said, I have a whole Blu-ray set of Band of Brothers that I could just pop in right now if I wanted to. So
well, someday you will, and you will enjoy yourself. All right, this is kind of a fun question. Who is a director you don't think will ever make a superhero movie that you would still like to see make a superhero movie, and why?
I wouldn't say that Quentin Tarantino is my favorite director of all time, but every time somebody asks, who would you like to see do this genre? It's always Tarantino, because the reason for that being is because he's got this encyclopedic knowledge of all these different genres. He has sort of worked himself into this Tarantino, his own kind of genre almost. Like he's taken a lot of this stuff from the 60s and 70s and he's made it his own type of movie and everything. But obviously Tarantino has some comic book knowledge. There was a lot of references to the Silver Surfer in his early days, especially in the Reservoir Dogs and in Crimson Tide. When he does that rewrite, he definitely wrote all that Silver Surfer stuff there. So I know he's got a big, huge comic book based knowledge, and I think he would make a great one. The only problem is, like, another good answer to this, Edgar Wright. If he had to go into a Marvel or I wonder if Tarantino has more power than Kevin Feige, by the way. Like, if Tarantino were to make a Marvel movie and Kevin Feige said, here's the keys to this one franchise or whatever, does Tarantino have more power than Feige?
Man, I don't know.
Can he make it the way he wants?
I mean,
that would be interesting.
I think Feige, I bet there are 3 or 4 directors that could tell Feige, I'm doing it this way or fire me. Mm-hmm. That would still keep their jobs. Like Spielberg would be one of them. But I don't know if, because Tarantino is going to do some extreme stuff, and Marvel has a brand to protect. That's a curious question. That's
why when they do these ones that I would say, quote, don't matter, like Ant-Man, like if Ant-Man ended up being like not that big of a hit, they wouldn't have had to worry about putting him in all the other Avengers movies and everything.
Right.
It was just like, that's something that, but because it was a big hit, they were able to stick him in there, and that's why with this stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man and these type of movies, like, you find one of those franchises that don't make what you're trying to get to your overall with whatever you're trying to do. Like in that previous phase, they were trying to get to the Avengers movies. You give him a franchise like that and then let him run with it and then see if people like it. And you might have at least 1 or 2 stipulations, like, hey, don't make this too bloody, or don't make this, have a lot of swearing and N-word usage in it. As if you can avoid that, then we're good. And I think he would probably be fine with that, because I think he realizes what genre he's messing in.
Sure.
So yeah, anyway.
I am going with Paul Thomas Anderson.
I would definitely want to see that.
My reasoning is very specific. He would 100% make this a character study of a flawed person in power, because I feel like that's 60-70% of his filmography. Like from the dressmaker to the oil baron to the Philip Seymour Hoffman character in The Master. Mm-hmm. It's all very flawed people in power with sway over other people. And I would love to see that kind of examination of a superhero who's like a serious take on Hancock, right? Mm-hmm. That just a guy with issues who also has powers. I don't know. Anyway, I think that would be a very interesting one. A couple of those ones from the comments that I wanted to point out. Wes Anderson was suggested.
Wes Anderson would be fun. I mean, I don't know if it was infused with a Wes Anderson style, it would be a real quirky, type of comic book movie. But I'd be all about it for sure.
Oh yeah,
no
I think he could bring something really interesting. Jordan Peele would be great, and someone said, like, when we first had Tarantino Spawn, was doing Spawn would be right up Tarantino's alley. I'm sure. I don't know if he's interested in that particular character or anything, but he could certainly do what he wants with Spawn, because Spawn is R-rated as fuck. But yeah, Jordan Peele would be amazing on this stuff for sure. I would love to see Jordan Peele. By McKay, I think you mean Chris McKay, to do a Booster Gold movie. This is the Lego Batman director. Booster Gold is a DC character I have very little familiarity with.
Could be Adam McKay too.
Herzog.
Oh yeah, exactly.
A superhero movie,
dude. Seriously, a Werner Herzog comic book movie would be fucking rad. Actually, it may not be rad, but it would definitely be interesting.
It would be interesting. Oh, he says no Adam McKay, not Chris McKay. So Adam McKay doing Booster Gold.
Yeah.
So there would be lots of biting satire. Let's move on.
Yep.
Have you ever been really excited for someone to watch a particular movie only for them to not enjoy it and rain on your parade?
Yeah, this has happened many times, unfortunately, where I'm like, oh, this is right up this person's alley. And then they just, after they watch it, they just, they not only shit on the movie, but they seem to shit on the very idea that you brought up the movie in the first place. I remember early on, a friend of mine, I loved Fargo when it came out, and a friend of mine saw it, and she was like, this was like a TV movie. I didn't like it. I'm like, okay, fuck. And then, but I also remember, going to see Shattered Glass with a friend.
Oh, wow.
And they hated it. And,
oh, no.
And so I was like, man, I loved that movie. I loved it. How do you hate it? But yeah, this has happened many, many times.
Well, my wife has a friend. It's a boyfriend of one of her girlfriends who keeps trying to get her to watch Fight Club. And I'm always like, he doesn't know you at all. But the only way I learned these kinds of things was by making grand mistakes early in our relationship, like showing her Training Day. And again,
I don't know what year this was that you showed Training Day to your wife, but man, hearing that right now, I'm like, there is no way. What were you thinking?
I was thinking Denzel is so great. I wasn't thinking about all the violence and the swearing and the scene at the card table. Yeah, her reaction to Training Day was such that I knew when Fight Club got brought up that was a bad idea. But I tried going in a different direction after Training Day, and I showed her West Side Story, which I had not seen probably in 10, 15 years. So I had forgotten it's 5 hours long.
Yeah.
And it was just mostly crickets. It's just not her thing. And you learn somebody's taste over time, but sometimes even somebody you know really well, you're like, hey, I really think you're going to love this movie. And then they're like, what the F were you talking about? I hated that garbage. So,
over in the comments,
you just can't tell.
Over in the comments, JC said, I recommended Cabin in the Woods to a friend recently. She doesn't trust me on movie recommendations anymore. That's too bad, because Cabin in the Woods is awesome. Cabin in the Woods is awesome. I remember being at the Hollywood 27 when that movie came out, and there were people who were working there who didn't like it. And I think they were expecting, based on the trailer, they were expecting your typical everyday cliche Cabin in the Woods movie, and they didn't get it. And they thought all this other stuff on the outside of it was stupid. So, if you go in with a certain expectation and it's not met, then you have, I watched Swiss Army Man, which is about as fucked up as it gets, with my wife, and afterwards she decided never to watch movies with me again. I don't blame her. No, it's just one of those. It's one of those movies that's just insane from the get go. That movie's just plain insane. So.
In the membrane.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to another question. I think we have time for at least one more. This was fun for me. Let me vent. Name a franchise that needs to take a good long break and a standalone film that needs to be turned into a franchise.
Okay, so Halloween needs to take a break, y'all.
Applause.
Halloween should have been done a long time ago in the original series, and then maybe, if you came back, I don't know, there's some people who love that zombie version. I actually heard some people over the weekend tell me that they love the zombie version, and I'm like, you and I can't be friends, I don't think, but that needs to go, and they're going to have, I think it's called Halloween Ends in October, which we'll see, fuckers. I mean, this movie is...
I doubt it ends.
Yeah.
What's weird to me is that they just keep going. They must be making plenty of money because the last two have not gotten good reviews or good word of mouth.
Well, the first one sort of did, and it did do well. The second one, I remember seeing a lot of advance good word for it, but once the movie came out, I remember being kind of excited about watching that movie, and I think I watched it on Peacock or whatever. But like, I was like, this movie's terrible. why are people liking this? I don't get it. And then it turns out, most people don't like that movie. They don't like it, as it turns out. You get these like hype, advanced hype stuff that goes on that these studios are so good about getting out these days, where it makes it sound like this movie's great, and then you finally watch it and you're like, so yeah, Halloween needs to take a break. It not only needs to take a break, it just needs to get retired. And then for franchises, Mr. Brooks, which of course had a great first movie, and was intended to be a series of movies, but nobody watched it, so there were no more Mr. Brooks after that.
I'm still telling you, I want a sequel. You could make it today of his daughter, because that was Danielle Pennebaker, right? And like she's gonna follow in his footsteps. You could easily do a sequel now and even cameo him if you wanted to.
Yeah,
I love that movie so much. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna choose one that's already planning to end soon, and that's Fast and Furious, because Vin Diesel publicly begged The Rock to come back for the final chapter, which I guess this 10th one will be, and The Rock publicly said no. And said, I already told you no in private. Why would you do this publicly except to manipulate me? That relationship fascinates me.
Oh, I know. I so want to know what started all of that. I like, can we not wait the requisite 30 years that it's going to take for somebody to come out with... Yeah.
Yeah, like Vin Diesel took a shit in the trailer that The Rock was staying in. I predict when they end, they will last all of 5 years before they bring it back with Vin playing a smaller role, and they have a new crew that they do 10 more movies with.
Yeah.
And I will hate them all. I came up with 3 movies that I think deserve to be turned into franchises. The first one is Upgrade. With not Tom Hardy. And it was directed by Lee Winnell. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I think there's ways to explore that universe further. The other one I wrote down was Dread, previously mentioned. I know Carl Urban has tried a few times to drum up support for another one. It seems to be dead in the water. But that first one was a pretty good springboard, and I think they could have gone a bunch of different...
And now,
thank you, Patrick.
Now, because comic book movies are a little bit more prominent than they were when that Dread came out, with a little bit more backing, I think that a sequel to that would do well. And everybody, it seems like that movie's built up quite a following since it came out.
I think so.
So...
my last one was Matt Damon's Ripley.
There
are plenty of Ripley books, and that movie has bored its way into my heart. And so I would love to go back to another Matt Damon Ripley film right now, and maybe even do a third. There's all kinds of Ripley stories out there. Anyway,
I love all of those choices, by the way. Those all should definitely... It's funny when we say when something should get a franchise, they're probably not, just because of the way they performed at the box office. Because if they should be and they performed, you knew you were going to get a franchise out of it. But
exactly,
none of these did. So
from the comments, we got a lot of good suggestions. At least half of them seem to want the MCU to take a break. The other half are getting the pitchforks ready. Jurassic Park God End. I agree with that with my whole heart.
That's probably the title of another Jurassic Park movie, by the way.
God End. Oh, here's a good suggestion for a franchise. Master and
Commander, yeah.
Again, several more books out there about this character that we could adapt. More Nice Guys, another one from Joseph.
Yeah, the Nice Guys would be amazing. Yeah.
Waterworld. I can't agree with you there, buddy. And I love Waterworld like nobody. Let's see. Fast and Furious documentary. Dredd is planning on a series, I thought I heard last. Well, that would be interesting.
Yeah. It says here, what is this? Chris, can chat name a single franchise with a female lead? I don't know if she's asking if I know one, but Bridget Jones is one. It had three different movies, but I don't know if there are any other like Are there any other are there like superhero ones? I mean, Wonder Woman would be, but it's only had 2 movies, or 2 standalone movies. She's been in a bunch of others, but yeah, it is hard to. I think that might end up changing though, as we keep going further into this decade, because there seems to be a movement towards that. So. Anyway, yeah, so that's going to be all, I guess, today. Love you guys out there, on Patreon, listening to us, live. Yeah, we'll be looking forward to talking the Batman next week. So,
All right.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Be a part of the live show by being a member of the Sin Club at Patreon at patreon.com/cinemasins. Chat with us on the Cinemasins Discord at discord.gg/cinemasins or Cinemasins Twitter at Cinemasins, and email any comments or questions to Recotopia at cinemasins.com. That's RECOTOPIA at cinemasins.com. Of course, somebody says Resident Evil right after we got that was definitely a female-led franchise.
Yes, it was. Although for like 17 films.
Yep.
Like, the only time TBS does not show Friends from 10 a.m. to like 4 p.m. is when there's like a holiday and they run like movies or marathons of stuff. And today they're running, I don't even know what this is. Sisters? The movie with Amy Poehler and Tina Fey? What's going on there? Tell you, I will write a sternly worded email. I probably won't. I need Chris to show up. I'm recording this time. We got to do outtake fodder.
Sorry.
No worries. We just have like 12 minutes of outtakes of me slowly worrying about you that you might not be okay. Well, that's what I started out by saying. Chris is not the kind of guy to be late. That's me. And then it just got progressively more concerning when I slacked you and you didn't respond.
I was just sitting there watching YouTube shit.
Did the cats unplug Jeremy's Wi-Fi again?
It's the final countdown.
Shit.